The 10 Commandments. Then God spoke all these words. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an idol, whether in the form of anything that is in heaven above, or that is on the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. You shall not bow down to them or worship them. For I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing children for the iniquity of parents, to the 3rd and 4th generation of those who reject me, but showing steadfast love to the 1,000th generation of those who love me and keep my commandments. You shall not make wrongful use of the name of the Lord your God, for the Lord will not acquit anyone who misuses his name. Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the 7th day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. You shall not do any work, you, your son or your daughter, your male or female slave, your livestock, or the alien resident in your towns. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that is in them, but rested the 7th day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and consecrated it. Honor your father and your mother, so that your days may be long in the land that the Lord your God is giving you. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, or male or female slave, or ox, or donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor.
So many of us have tried at some point in our lives to memorize the 10 Commandments. Some of us have been successful. God made it easy for us because by simply being aware of the fingers on our hands, we know if we have left one out or if we have added one of our own. The 10 Commandments were a gift to the people of Israel, given by God to Moses and then to the people so that they might know and experience, yet in another way, the love that God had for them. And Jesus makes it easier for us. He provides for us the summary of the law. Jesus said, "Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and with all thy mind." This is the first and great commandment. The second is like unto it, "Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself." On these 2 commandments hang all the law and the prophets. So we imagine in our minds Moses coming down the mountain with the 2 tablets. On tablet number 1 is commandments 1 through 4, having to do with loving God with everything that you have. And on the 2nd tablet, commandment 5 through 10, which speaks of the relationships and responsibilities that we have with one another. So many people I have engaged with have come to the conclusion that if they simply follow the 10 Commandments as if that were really possible, to love God unconditionally without a mistake or exception, or to love one's neighbor completely, that they would receive a ticket, an entry document into heaven. God does not offer us the 10 Commandments so that we have a way into heaven. God has offered us the 10 Commandments as an invitation to enter into a relationship with God and to know God through the relationships that we have with one another. St. Paul will say much later that nothing will separate us from the love of God. This is the gift given to us in Jesus. Jesus dying on the cross and rising for us offers to us the true ticket, the entryway into the reign of God simply because God loved enough, and by the grace of God, all of us are given entry into heaven. This is what God had desired for all of humanity from the beginning of time. And the good news is that God has given us the doorway, and the good news is that God also offers us the opportunity to partake in the reign of God at whatever moment we desire. God says, God first, God as priority. Imagine your world if God was truly the first in all decisions we engage in on a day-to-day basis. I love the words of Jesus to love your neighbor as you love yourself. I love the fact that it does not say, notice this, to love your neighbor more than yourself. This is what we call now codependent behavior. And Jesus does not say to love yourself more than your neighbor. This is what we all know to be selfish. And Jesus provides a good measuring line, a good barometer of how we choose to engage with one another, to love your neighbor as yourself. And in doing so, we will know God in a profound way. It's about our relationships. And God will say to the people of Israel in the chapter just before the offering of the 10 Commandments that if you obey my voice and keep my commandments, you will know that you are my treasured possession, my treasured people. Indeed, the whole earth is mine, is what God says. But you shall be a priestly kingdom and a holy nation, to reflect upon all who dare to gaze upon you, the kind of God that I am. Will you follow my commandments? Will you follow my desires? Will you throw yourself completely into my grace and mercy? Will you engage with each other fairly? And in doing so, know my presence among you. God is of love. God's intention is love. God's desire is love. God is of love. The 10 Commandments offer us that invitation into God's desire, intent, and will for each and every one of us.